Hello, good afternoon, good morning, good whatever time zone you're in to all Link to the Past Randomizer fans. We are bringing you a Link to the Past Randomizer tournament Group AC Losers Bracket Round 1 match between HayfieldBay and JamesFnX. This is going to be Game 2 of this series, which Game 1 was unfortunately not restreamed, and HayfieldBay is currently up 1-0. That means that this is a do-or-die game for James, as if he loses this, he will be eliminated from the tournament. After losing the first game, in order to try to tilt the game more in his favor, he chose to make this a standard mode seed, which means that we will be going through the castle escape, rescuing the princess, visiting your uncle, all the good stuff you see in the vanilla speed run. So these runners are off while we see the uncle text. I am red calling this game. My partner today is going to be Jossie. You there, Jossie? How are we doing?
I'm doing good. Oh, they just got a full heart for their trouble there. How about you?
It's doing pretty good. I'm looking forward to seeing how this game shakes out. Both of them just running up to the uncle tunnel. Unfortunately, our screens are a little bit small. We are working on getting that addressed, so bear with us.
Ooh, and it's a bow start today, which means that we could also be getting pointed towards an early Eastern Palace.
10 bombs in that chest as well means that we are not going to have to kill anything. We're not going to have to worry about enemy prize packs, nothing. We're going to see these guys go as fast as they can down to that ball and chain garden and back to the sanctuary.
And the funny thing is that package of 10 bombs was added for the randomizer specifically so that Uncle could give it as a bomb start. So we basically get 2 Uncle weapons here.
Absolutely love to see it. And then you did also mention the potential early Eastern Palace play off the back of that bow. We currently have no idea if that's a crystal dungeon or a pendant dungeon. Won't be able to learn it until after we get out of the sanctuary, get out of the rain. But would definitely be an intriguing play to see, especially if somebody were to go there first thing vanilla style.
So while these runners are doing their synchronized start, this is just a good time to go over the tournament so far. That this is now the second week of the group stage, and groups are a total of 3 weeks, during which we will narrow down 128 runners to 64 runners. So there are 32 groups of 4 from each group. 2 will be eliminated and 2 will advance, and so as Reg said, this is one of the first races where someone's actually at the risk of elimination.
Right. To kick off this group, we had Pika Pals as the top seed in this group, played against JamesFnX and won that 2-0 to put James in this match. And then similarly, on the other side of that group, the number 2 seed in the group, Sir Linkalot 777, took a 2-1 victory over HayfieldBay. And then we had HayfieldBay beating JamesFnX previously to get us to this match. And then as we've got both runners just carrying Zelda back up, we have the small key. I don't believe we've seen the map yet, so 4 items and 5 chests, including the sanctuary coming up. The Dark Cross, the back 3 in the sewers, and the sanctuary itself.
Yeah, and in standard mode, we have to get the key in front so that we can go through well, we could get the key in Dark Cross, but it has to come up by Dark Cross at least, so that we can proceed farther back.
Yep. With the Dark Cross being the key location in the vanilla game.
And with it being standard mode, the runners get a free light cone their first time. Ooh, there's the mirror. That'll be nice. But yes, the runners get a free light cone their first time through the back of Escape. If they were to come back here without the lamp, they wouldn't have a free light cone.
I will say that mirror is a nice find. Would have been a lot nicer if it were one chest early, because they could have just grabbed Zelda and mirrored back to the start of the castle instead of having to take the long walk. But we do see both runners dealing with the final boss of the Escape, that key dropping rat, excuse me.
Oh, and they're back in sync too. Nice synchronized explosions.
So
and we're live.
There. Yep. That was what, a red shield, a book, and 50 rupees. So I believe we'll be seeing a map in the sanctuary.
Yeah. Let's see if the runners remember not to open that chest. The last standard seed I commented in this tournament, the runners afterwards discussed that whoever finished Escape first had a moral victory, so I guess HayfieldBay has a moral victory here.
By about 1 second, but he does open that map chest where James skips it. And they are back within a second of each other exiting the doors.
Wow, we have both 5-6 crystals here in the light world in Eastern and Hera, and Desert's a regular crystal. That's always something runners like to see, crystals in the light world, so they know they're relatively short dungeons.
Yep. And it also leaves open the possibility of those obnoxiously long dungeons like Swamp Palace, Turtle Rock, Misery Mire, or even Ice Palace being pendants when they get to the Dark World, so love to see it.
And just a big 20 in Lumberjack, so we're not going to be needing Aga for that.
Still a chance we'll need him for pretty much anything else, but yeah, having that information is always reassuring.
And Hayfield, having not checked Lumberjack, is going to be our first runner into Kakariko.
Yeah, James will be just a few seconds behind him though, and following the same route. They're gonna have all the same items and have the same decisions open to them after they do finish CAC. Although actually, it looks like James is going up. He's going to check the Master Sword pedestal pretty much immediately, so we'll know that in addition to the Lumberjack.
Well, you don't see early book like this too often. And we have gotten powder in the basement of Blind's hut.
Not much else yet. Let's hope we see a hammer so they can immediately turn that in, though.
There is a heart container on the pedestal, so less than 10 minutes in, rip ped.
Perfectly fine by me. No all dungeons today.
Chad is already pressing F to pay respects.
You know what? Let them do that. I won't, and I'm not going to shed any tears over it, but chat's welcome.
There's our lamp, so we are now glove away from logical access to Tower of Hera.
Seems like it's not that frequent that you get the lamp as the first part of that X. Well, I guess we've got the mirror, but the lamp before the glove just to get up to the mountain. Feels like you see runners just break that lamp a lot more. There's a sword on Hayfield's side.
That's practically a bargain for 100 rupees.
Yep, if they find that glove and decide to make the Hera play, they can actually kill Moldorm with it. But with only 2 checks left, it is looking like just that sword, lamp, and magic powder in Kakariko. So we'll see where they go after this. They've got the entirety of the Eastern Palace in logic for a red crystal with that lamp pickup as well.
Yeah, and I'm particularly intrigued because with both of the, with one of the 2 red crystals already being in logic and the other being a glove away from being in logic, we could actually potentially see some early progression on Pyramid Fairy.
I did also have another thought just now. With that mirror, we could see these runners try to hold out for a hammer and a moon pearl, run Palace of Darkness and Eastern Palace at the same time. One of the favorite combo plays in Randomizer.
Though they'd still need that glove to get to the Dark World.
Oh, yeah, you're right, because you gotta lift the rock behind the pegs. Man, gloves are silly. They do too much in this game.
Yeah, actually, given the items we've... Oh, and HayfieldBay is already on his way over to the eastern area. I was going to say, given the items that we've seen so far, it's actually, if anything, pointing a bit more towards Aga, but we shall see what Sahasrara has in his closet.
We do need another sword or a magic cape for Aga. But yeah, with that and with the early red crystals, and with the... Well, there's the second sword, speak of the devil. And the Cane of Samaria, that's good.
Yeah, so Aga is now in logic, whereas we have no items for non-Aga Dark World access. But we haven't done the South Shore checks yet.
Also got 3 more items in Eastern Palace, in addition to the 7 to 10 along the South Shore, depending on how far they take potential fake flipper checks. Anyways, the big thing I would be concerned about at this point, as far as Aghanim goes, is Hammer as the Pyramid Fairy progression. Because we've got our Aghanim access, we've got Mirror, we really just need the Moon Pearl and the glove so that we can, or the glove or the flute, a way to reach Hera for that to be a possibility.
Yeah, and regardless of anything else, Hammer in Pyramid Fairy makes Aga 100% required.
I mean, there are tricks and ways around that, using the mirror and bomb duplication tricks with the flippers, but that's out of scope of the game's logic, and it's out of scope of what these runners can do without the flippers.
Well, even with the flippers, how are you going to drag the big bomb?
If you mirror on the Lake Hylia, like you jump into the water, abandon your bomb, and then you mirror on the Lake Hylia island with semi-precise timing, like you're doing the bomb dupe glitch with screen transitions, and the bomb does follow you onto the island. And you can use that to run it all the way around.
Oh, wow. I did not know about that trick.
Yeah. The important thing to note, though, is that it can't be done with a fake flipper state, because if you're fake flippering, you can't use the mirror to get onto Hylia Island and do the screen transition. Anyways, on Hayfield's side in Eastern Palace, we've seen a map, we've seen a compass, we've seen a big key, we've seen a boomerang. So he's going to find one item here in the chest he's headed towards that contains the big key in the vanilla game. Then he's going to go kill our most nice for another.
And I just realized with the early book and a fire source. If Desert Palace is not boots locked, we have full access to that.
Do need a glove to get back to Landmola specifically, but we can do everything else in the dungeon pending the boots lock, yeah. Although I guess if we found 2 gloves, we could avoid, well, 2 gloves and a flute, we could avoid lifting those rocks and just mirror to it.
Yeah, though I always forget that glove is required for the back access.
Yeah, it's one of the ways they force you to pick it up out of that big chest in the vanilla game. Anyways, Hayfield is 2 rooms from the Armos Knights. In this room, he's going to try to set up 2 quick kills on these Igors, just like that. And we'll see how he approaches the Armos Knights.
And he's making sure to have a full arrow supply.
Looks like he is going for a quick kill setup here. Does not get it, unfortunately. I think he needed an extra arrow in that setup at the start. Only gets 10 arrows out of the, 21 he used in that fight, so only a partial refund.
Yeah, so apart from the moral victory of getting the best boomerang, Eastern is a bust, but it gave us half of our access to Pyramid Fairy, which we could very well need.
Yep, and every check that goes by without progressing us, that does look just a little bit more likely. So I'm guessing we're going to see the South Shore checks from Hayfield here, and then probably Desert Palace afterwards if that doesn't pay out significantly. You can see he's starting with the mini Morum Cave instead of the dam here, which definitely signals he's planning to just do the dam with Desert Nagina after South Shore. So he's already preparing himself for that.
And he's thinking maybe that while he does South Shore, he can find either the boots or the glove, and that would give him more of desert access.
Right. Definitely agree with the play to do the rest of South Shore before the desert. Unfortunately, Mini Moldorm Cave not turning up very much. Yeah, just a lot of cash and what was that, a heart piece or two?
Well, if he fake flippers to Zora, he now has Zora money.
Yeah. Zora's not in Logic without the flippers or a glove, and he's only got 1 check left to pull that before he goes out of Logic. And unfortunately, without the Moon Pearl, he can't achieve a water walk off the Waterfall Cave and get those checks, so bit of a tricky situation for a fake flipper play because you're going to be isolating a lot up there. And then on James' side, we do see him making the exact same dam skip play that we saw Hayfield do, as Ice Shroud Cave turns out to be a bust. So it's looking like dam into desert is the next play.
And Hayfield also has decided that he wants to stay in Logic for the time being.
Yeah, he has that magic mirror, so a potential play for later is walking up to Catfish and then mirroring right to the Zora checks. But I think that's definitely at least worth consideration over isolating the ledge in the Waterfall Cave.
Yeah, and we're so far away from non-Aga Dark World access that, like, if you were 1 item short, ooh, there's a bottle, so now Bottle Bender's in Logic. But yeah, if you were 1 item short of non-Aga Dark World access, then I could see breaking Logic because it could save you a lot of trouble if it gets Aga out of the way.
Yeah, honestly, even just with the Moon Pearl to allow him to get that Waterfall Cave checks, I would consider it. Because they have the bow, so they should be able to do the splash deletion glitch to check the ledge as well if they really want to, if they fake flipper up there. But
Also, shoutouts to OSS Geek Art Tracker for making really horrible puns in chat.
somebody give that man a microphone. Well, there's a complete boomerang collection in Agina's cave. Nothing on the desert ledge, so up to 2 items in desert here. I don't think it's going to be 0 given how few checks we've got left in logic.
And beyond that, Sick Kid is the only thing left in logic.
Yep. So up to 2 items here and 1 there, and it's got to progress us in some form. A glove will get us onto the mountain for an extra couple checks.
We don't have to find progression here. We have what we need to do Aga 1, and if Moon Pearl's on Pyramid Ledge.
Okay, yes, that is correct. That's also borderline worst case scenario, so I'm not really interested.
Small key on the torch, so desert is logically boots locked. And yeah, that map is the last item we're going to be seeing in desert now.
I'm actually shocked to see 0 progression here in the desert. Well, not just 0 progression, 0 actual items.
So, unless Sick Kid has something, the only other possibility is that either Moon Pearl or something leading to Moon Pearl is on Pyramid Ledge.
James gonna try to lift the rock, get a little disappointed when he remembers he can't. And I guess he's taking the long way around to Agina because he skipped that on the way into the desert. He can't get any items on the right side here.
Yeah, I don't know why he'd take the long way like this, but maybe he's a bit tilted from realizing he can't go into the back.
Well, jumping off ledges is fun, what can I say?
Yeah, you don't see people use this exit from desert very often. And Hayfield's about to visit Sick Kid and steal his lunch money.
Ooh, that's a fine. That's our mountain access, so Tower of Hera is on the table now. And that's what, 3 additional checks plus 2 in the tower. It's no, they've got a master sword, so that's actually
Ether
several
tablet,
checks.
yeah.
So fairly good odds we find at least something to at least put Agahnim off further, if not put it off entirely.
Where's James going now? Is he thinking fake flipper?
Seems like it to me. He's running down to the spot where you ordinarily set it up.
Unfortunately, unless he has some amazing find from fake flippering, this is just going to cost him time because it looks like Sick Kid was the play.
Oh, he skipped Ice Rod Cave, I guess, and I didn't notice the first time. Meanwhile, Old Man with just a piece of heart and activating the save and quit mountain point.
Well, save and quit mountain point combined with the flute is really nice because anytime you want to save and quit in the overworld, you can get a full heart refill. And there's our tempered sword on Spectacle Rock.
And there's half magic inside the Spectacle Rock. Both of those are really nice finds, even though neither of them actually progresses him. Looks like he's not going to take the time for the half magic, though, which, that's a bit of a long walk, can't really blame him.
Oh, and James is doing Aga, so if Hayfield, well, if nothing else, that Tempered Sword is going to help Hayfield get through some of the tough enemies on the way up to Aga. And maybe he'll find more progression and not have to do Aga.
That's what we're hoping for at this point, but it's down to the 2 items in Hera for that. And honestly, if James finds something good on the pyramid ledge, like if he finds, say, a hook shot there, that'll make his mountain trip a lot more efficient once he finally gets up there.
That is true.
So, big key. That was just a heart piece in the basement cage, so not looking good for the mountain checks right now. Just 1 left.
Which to me is pointing to something big on Pyramid Fairy, especially if the other item here turns out not to be useful.
Well, we're going to get teased just a little more on that as we get the small key there.
And at this point, if the item's in the basement, I think you have to take your coffee break.
Absolutely, considering the only alternative is the play that James is making now, the Agahnim play.
I mean, it would be a serious troll if Hammer winds up being in Hera Basement, because everything's pointing to Hammer in Dark World at this point.
Well, James is running through the last few rooms of the tower as Hayfield downs Moldorm for his second crystal, so let's see. And it's the basement.
But on the bright side, we're already 2 crystals in, less than half an hour in.
Yeah, could definitely be worse. They could have both been pendants instead of the 5-6. And James is now at the top of the tower. So, chat likes to guess how many of the blue ball attacks Agahnim will throw at us today. The randomizer does seed that, so it'll be the same for both runners as long as they play the fight perfectly. How many do you think we got today? Anywhere from 0 to 15.
I'm gonna be nice today and say there's only gonna be 1, but I have a tendency to be wrong. What do you think?
I think the statistical average is about 3. I'm gonna go with 0.
I did get to see a 0 the other day. Well, with those few energy balls, we've already ruled out anything greater than 7.
And there's 1, I'm wrong. But I think with just 1, we're still spared the second lightning cycle, so can still turn out alright for him.
And Aga is our progression, because Hera Basement just had a small heart.
I'm both very surprised and very disappointed.
Now on his way out, HayfieldBay is going to be collecting that half magic. Oh, and the answer was 2. Which only Keskin Menno guessed, so congratulations.
Now we've got the best music in the game here with the bunny, but let's see what's on that ledge. And it is just the Moon Pearl directly. Least interesting option, but also the most progressive one.
Well, All of Pod except for Helmasaur is now in logic. I love how the Moon Pearl had that delayed effect so that James's sprite only changed when he jumped off the ledge.
I like that it didn't change the music.
Yeah, we don't really get to hear this music at length very often unless you're playing inverted.
Right, and on top of that, it is my single favorite track in the game, so even though we had to sit through a tower climb, I am pleased by this. And actually, yeah, you mentioned earlier that all of Pod except Helmasaur was in logic. All of Pod except Helmasaur is the only place in logic. No glove means no catfish, no hookshot means you can't get across the river, no hammer means you can't go south.
There's gotta be a glove in Pod.
I think they need 2 gloves in order to be able to take the long walk to the bomb shop for hammer at Pyramid Fairy. Of course, presuming the hammer is there means they can't get it outside it for quicker walks, so...
Well, 1 glove and hookshot. As I say hookshot, it appears.
Okay, you are right. They could hookshot across the river with just 1 glove, and James is actually noping out. And our map check puts the pendants in the slow dungeons, Turtle Rock, Swamp, and Misery Mire. That's about the best pendant layout you could possibly ask for, in my opinion.
And good compensation for them having to do Aga. But I thought you needed either glove or hammer to get up to the point where you can hookshot across.
You do. You just also need the hookshot to actually cross.
But James just noped out after the hookshot, so what's he gonna do with the hookshot alone? Oh, East Death Mountain, right. Oh, but
I had a...
yet.
No, he doesn't. I had assumed that the East Mountain was the play for him. Although he walked out, so I think it took him a few seconds to remember that he does need glove or hammer to cross the river. And he doesn't know that mountain access is sitting there in Kakariko, so he's going to have to take the long walk back into Pod.
But one way or another, we do have 8 more checks opened up now.
At most, 4 of them will be items, although we do know at least 3 of them will be.
Oh, I was referring to East Death Mountain.
Oh, yeah, East Death Mountain is a ton of... I think 8 is pretty close to the number of remaining chests in Pod, too, though. So it sort of threw me off a bit.
Oh. No, it's a lot more than 8 chests left in Pod, though, as you said, at most 4 of them can be items. Because we have 6 small keys, a big key, and the map and the compass.
Yeah, you're right. That's my bad. I just wasn't thinking it all the way through, especially because James needs to get that flute before the mountain is an option for him.
Ted was a heart container, by the way, since chat's discussing.
It's kind of amazing that we've got a seed that's 32 minutes in with an Agahnim kill, and we can actually still answer that question.
Okay, 2 keys there, so there might be 1 item remaining in the front.
Yep. Primary rule of Pod logic is 4 small keys in these front 6 chests, which includes the shooter room chest that we saw the hookshot in, the 2 on the bow locked right side, the 1 in this Stalfos basement that he's in, but he's not going to reach yet, the 1 he's actually going for that has the big key in vanilla, and the bridge chest.
Yeah, I probably would have done the bridge chest first, just because if that's an item, then you can skip the vanilla big key chest.
Yeah, just because of counting and knowing that there had to be 4 there. But at the same time, getting that vanilla big key chest, then dropping down to the Stalfos chest is not terribly slow. And on Hayfield's side, he does have Agahnim down. He's on his way into the Palace of Darkness. He actually has the legitimate option of saying nope after finding that hook shot, because he can go right back to the mountain with it if he wants.
Well, there's our big key. And that's our last small key, so Harmless Hellway must have an item.
I think we've only seen the compass, so there's still a map to find as well. Helmsfor King could have it, but that's not terribly likely with the number of chests left. There's a fire rod, though. That's a big find.
Yeah, now we just need that glove to get over to West Dark World.
Yep, and these will be the last 3 checks for James in pod. There's that map, so 2 items.
And fortunately, with the mirror, we don't need to worry about death warping here.
Good thing, too, because Blue Mail makes that a fair bit harder. Not in this room specifically, because those fireballs will always do 1 heart, but in general.
And there are those flippers, so we now do have access to West Dark World, as well as Catfish and...
No, Catfish still needs a glove. There's another rock you have to lift on.
Oh, right, there's that other rock. So, right, so Zor is only accessible through the light world.
But yeah, that finding those flippers does put the Catfish to Zora mirror play as something I think both of these runners will try to shoot for. And they will be able to do it as long as that area does not block both gloves. On the other side, though, this does put James further and further away from the mountain, which so far we know there's nothing up there but a 5-6 crystal, but there's still several checks on the east side, too.
And just given the item placement so far, this seed is absolutely screaming Hammer and Pyramid Fairy, so if that is the case, he's going to need to go up there to get that remaining 5-6 crystal.
Looks like he's gonna show us that big rock you've got to lift to get to Catfish. It's that one.
Momentarily realizes, oh yeah.
Yep, no way around that, so he's just gonna hook shot. The good news is that he can check the graveyard ledge and not leave that as a lone, isolated check that a lot of runners tend to orphan just because of where it is. Now, the unfortunate part for him is that Hayfield, if he chooses to take this same route, can actually end his Dark World loop with the red bomb, which, as you mentioned before, James, without that Hera clear, will not have that option. But he does still have several checks to find that hammer right there.
Oh, okay, so much for me going on and on about Pyramid Fairy having the hammer, though Pyramid Fairy could still have a glove.
Yep. And I mean, Pyramid Fairy having the hammer was pretty much the worst case scenario for these guys. Although knowing what we know now, it's pretty reasonable to say that we absolutely needed that Agahnim kill just to get to the Dark World, let alone any potential Pyramid Fairy shenanigans, so not a big loss on their part for having to kill him. Meanwhile, Hayfield got all his items out of pod, and he's going back to the Light World. It's looking like the mountain play for him. So we know he won't find that hammer there, but that's some pretty significant divergence at this point, just triggered by James not checking Sick Kid getting that flute.
Was that just a bloopy on Bumper?
I believe
it was a very fast check. I saw something blue.
Oh no, it was triple bombs.
Oh, it was something blue, and not particularly worthwhile.
Yeah, I think there's only one blue item left to find this seed that would be worthwhile, unless you count the remaining crystals. And actually, with Turtle Rock being a pendant, we don't even need that one. So basically, blue items are junk from this point on.
I was gonna say, you don't want to see Ice Rod at this point.
I mean, I'm not going to cry if I find it, just because still can't get into Turtle Rock, still need to do several things before you can get that far.
That's true, we could have a medallionless seed, you don't see that too often. Okay, nothing downstairs and...
Yes, sorry, you were commenting on Paradox Cave?
Yeah, just nothing downstairs in Paradox Cave, or was that upstairs? I never know, since it's a paradox.
I believe it's listed as upper in the spoiler log. But yeah, something you do see far more frequently than medallionless seeds are 7 junk items in the Paradox Cave. So Hayfield's only got one check left on the mountain now, and it's going to be the long walk through Spiral Cave with no boots. So get some resident sleepers in chat or something while James makes his way back to Mothula.
Was that Quake on the island there?
That was Quake on the island, but we need 2 gloves to get to it. Ooh, James got grabbed after falling in the pit. That's Japanese 1.0 Link to the Past for you.
Wow. I mean, I knew they could get grabbed while falling. I didn't know they could still get grabbed after falling.
Unfortunately for Hayfield, nothing in Spiral Cave either. So James has to go relight those torches with just half a bar of magic. And I think he's going to switch over to the lamp here. Let's hope that door doesn't close on him. Oh, too slow with that hesitation there, trying to figure out how he wanted to do it. So he's going to have to restock his magic. We see a fetch quest on the Hylia Island. That will be accessible to whoever gets over there.
But yes, this unfortunately is an instance where not going up Death Mountain cost James simply because that half magic would have made it a lot easier to go through without a magic refill.
Yep. His best bet now... I'm not sure if it would be faster to just collect the pots in the next room a couple times with the use of the mirror, or if it would be faster to go back and get the full drop in the midsection. I think that this is faster, though. And then for those playing the home game, we did see nothing of value on Hobo on Hayfield's side, while James is trying to refill his magic meter here. And I do like the boomerang strats from James here, preserving his magic meter and dealing with the Gibdos. Although he gets grabbed again. Good news for him is that'll reset the magic pots.
Oof. At this point, it's probably better to just go back to the middle, but no, he still has some magic from last time, so if he grabs all the little magic pieces here, he could just do this on Fire Rod. And Zora Ledge is a vanilla piece of heart today.
Which means the only thing left is the big fish himself. Ooh, that's bad. That Wallmaster falling and blocking his shot. I'm not sure he's got enough magic for a Fire Rod shot here. He doesn't think he does either, and he's not going to bother trying.
And the moral of this story is this is why so many runners will wait before jumping into the pit before Moth.
Yeah, that was just a super unfortunate set of events for him all the way around.
And I didn't see what Zora had, but it didn't look very worthwhile.
Let me double check that on the replay here. It was just a partial refund, 300.
So that's James's saving grace that Hayfield has also wasted a fair amount of time.
Yeah, but I would imagine that those are checks James is going to make once he gets his way up to the catfish later on. The big problem for Hayfield here is that he's orphaned that location if it turns out to be something. He has no reason to be in that part of the world again unless he wants to make that one long, out-of-the-way specific check.
And Hayfield is about to pick up his hammer here. And then think, oh, what was I doing all those Light World searches for?
I think he'll be pretty relieved to find that item before having to dip into Thieves Town without it and risk losing that big chest.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about this Dark World tour that Logic is leading the runners on, that there'll be full clears of Skull Woods and Thieves Town, along with the 2 crystals that just kind of come as part of it.
Yep, and then after finishing the Pyramid Fairy, which at least Hayfield can do here, they can walk right back into Pod and go kill the Helmasaur King if they want to. They'll be fairly close to doing that. And we do see the Mothula kill on James' side. No progression item out of it, but a heart container.
You know, this is crazy, but we are mitts away from de facto go mode, even though it wouldn't be logical go mode without the boots.
Whoa, you're right. I didn't even think about it because of how relatively early the timer is on this seed, but you're actually completely accurate there. We don't need any medallions. We don't need an ice rod. We logically don't really need silver arrows. Both of these guys can kill Ganon without them. And that's really it. The only exception, of course, being if there's, say, a big key on the torching Ganon's tower. That's a hard boots lock that we can't logic break around like we did in Desert. So Hayfield's making his way up into Skull Woods. He's looking to do the same back to front clear that James did. And James is ahead of him in the Village of Outcasts. Let's see what this first check is. That's a medallion that we're not going to need. And it's important to note, we mentioned that mitts are go mode earlier and that we wouldn't need the medallions. We cannot use the medallions this seed unless the boots are a hard requirement and they happen to be in Mire or Turtle Rock. Because you need mitts to get into both boots, or you need mitts to get into both medallion dungeons, so shouldn't get any mileage out of those whatsoever unless you want to use them to clear a room of enemies or something similar. or cracking Cold Stare's shell at the end of Ice Palace to preserve 3/4 of your magic meter. Less of an issue for Hayfield, who's got the half magic, but for James, may come in handy. Give him a bunch of fire rod shots against the Cold Stare. The second chest, Thieves Town, is just a blue rupee. We found the big key in the first chest. So 3 items still to find here. Big key is required in the front 4. And we'll see what the other 2 hold.
HayfieldBay is now making his way through that horrible mummy room, but with half magic, he still has a nearly full magic meter afterwards.
Yep, and he's got a tempered sword as well, which, assuming sword beams don't get in his way here, can make an absolute joke of Mothula. Just 4 hits with the tempered sword to kill him. It does do more damage than this fire rod he's using. His fire rod would take 8 good hits to kill. But 6 and a slash works just as well.
We never saw the other item in Skullwoods, did we?
Yes, we did. There was some rupees to the right of the main entrance.
Okay, I must have missed that.
Hayfield's gonna get his ped check, learn that he really doesn't need any medallions this seed. That's about all that buys him. And the third item in Thieves Town is a mirror shield. So that's all 3 of those today. The big thing we want to look for here is after James clears Thieves Town and does the other Village of Outcasts check, which is just the brewery down to the south, will he remember to mirror and check Sick Kid in the Light World and get his flute? If he does that, he should be in fine shape here, because that will let him up to the mountain. Unfortunately, he'll probably go there immediately and get absolutely nothing except that Tower of Hera crystal. But that is still an item he needs, and will let him travel around the map much quicker than just walking. And there's that small key, which will let him through the small key door to the big chest. And there should be, I believe, 1 item and a map remaining. 1 in this chest, 1 on blind.
Guess blind has the map then. And Hayfield's actually going to show us the brewery first before going in. Well, the red mail's nice, but not progression.
Alright, so James is here in the blind fight. There's a bunch of movement patterns to this, and the fight's actually deterministic. If you move in the same way and hit him in the same way, he'll die in the same spot every time. Pretty much like James just showed there. That was pretty close to perfect.
Yeah, any runner who's made it this far in the tournament is probably pretty skilled at getting the scripted blind fight.
Yep. You will occasionally see it get away from you, but happens even to the best run. And there is the mirror from James. So he's going to get his flute here, which is good. We'll see if he does take it immediately to the mountain.
Well, if nothing else, he should immediately activate it.
Yep, then the question will become whether he finishes his South Dark World loop or if he goes up to the mountain and knocks out all those checks. I would at least like to see him do Hera before he does the South Dark World. That way he can at least finish his Dark World loop with the Super Bomb and potentially a pod clear.
I'd like to see him do Magic Bat while he's here in Kakariko.
Oh yeah, we did get the hammer, so that's on the table too.
Unfortunately, he did not think of that.
Yeah, the allure of the mountain checks is a bit too strong, but at least he can do that on his way back to Kakariko to do all the South Dark World stuff. It'll be slightly more walking, but only slightly.
How is that only slightly more walking? Because he's about to lose his portal when he goes up through Spectacle Rock.
Because he's going to lose his portal either way here, so doing it before and then walking from the flute spot directly up to the portal, or doing it after, walking from the flute spot to the smith's house and then back to the portal. It is still more, but it's not like
he doesn't have access to the Kakariko portal. He doesn't
There's
have
a long way around to it. Oh, you're right.
You need the power glove to do the long way around.
That is the second time today I have made that mistake, and I am just not used to being in seeds where we're an hour in and still have no gloves. That is my bad entirely.
So yes, these runners only Dark World access, not counting the little spot around Spectacle Rock, is at Aga, or rather Hyrule Castle.
Okay, so I guess what James could do and will probably do here is just do, hopefully if he remembers, the Magic Bat as the last leg of his South Dark World stuff. He'll hammer down across the bridge, go back to Link's house, and do Hype Cave, Stumpy, Dig Game, Magic Bat. At least that's the way that minimizes walking while still getting Magic Bat in, knowing that he already skipped it while he was there. And to answer a question in chat, Agahnim has been checked. Desert Palace has been entered, but they were not able to get any items out of it without the boots or a glove.
Actually, it would be kind of funny if both gloves are in Pyramid Fairy. I'm not sure I've ever seen that.
Yeah, that would be pretty great. But I'm not gonna actually bet on that one until we run out of other locations. And Hayfield does down blind for his fourth crystal. We'll see where he goes now. There's no risk of him getting pulled right up to the mountain like James did, because he's had that flute for a little while now.
Will he think to check Magic Bat while he's over here?
He's doing it right now.
I just wasn't sure until he took out the mirror.
And in just a few seconds, we'll see what the bat's curse is.
Just a little love.
It's unfortunate, but there are a lot of those in the item pool.
24 to be precise.
Only thing there's more of is red rupees, which I believe there's 26 of those.
I think 27, but it's something like that.
Yeah, it's off the top of my head, and I haven't looked in a while. As James takes an unfortunate fall there, Moldorm just keeps going up and pushing him over the edge. But there's quick revenge for James.
And Shovel Game also has a vanilla piece of heart.
Only 17 digs for it, too. What a bargain.
So now we'll get Cave 45 and Stumpy. Haven't gotten that shovel off of Lake Hylia Island yet.
The cave's garbage, but still 6 more checks between Stumpy and Hype Cave before we start looking at the Big Bomb or the Hylia Island place.
And are those our last possible checks?
No, we've got the entirety of Swamp Palace we can look at.
Yeah, I just realized that, right, that hammer. Hayfield realizing, oh right, no gloves.
Strange seed when you're this far in without one, and that's just muscle memory. James got his junk out of the Tower of Hera.
And now he's gonna see a whole lot of junk on East Death Mountain.
Meanwhile, the most we've got in the so-called Hype Cave is a bug net.
I'd say the full heart container was worth more than the bug net.
The bug net's at least a Y item. And here comes the big bomb from Hayfield. If you and chat were right earlier about double glove in the Pyramid Fairy, this will put Hayfield in go mode, pending potential boots locks. Boots lock singular, actually, because the only one that can matter at this point is Ganon's Tower.
I just feel like there has to be at least one glove in the pyramid. Since I was wrong about hammer.
That countdown takes forever to actually get started.
I was just thinking the same.
Oh lord, this is ugly.
My.
Alright guys, Swamp Palace it is! I think that's the last location left.
And Catfish. No, we still don't have the glove for Catfish. Jeez. Oh, right, Helmasaur King, which is where Hayfield is going now. Or no, he's going to Lake Hylia Island.
Hylia Island is fine here, yeah. Although he could just be taking the long walk back to Swamp. Nope, it's the island.
But Helma does have an item on him, as we discussed.
Yeah, actually what he can do is grab this, and then just swim right over up to Palace of Darkness area. And it looks like that's what he's doing here.
Not a route you see very often.
Also, to answer a question in chat, no glove seeds, assuming you need 7 crystals, are not possible. Because even if Ice Mire and Turtle Rock are all all pendants, excuse me, you still need a glove to open the back of Desert Palace and reach the Land Molas. And you also need both gloves to reach the Dark World on Death Mountain and get into Ganon's castle. But even under fast Ganon settings, where you don't have to clear Ganon's tower, that Desert Palace will get you on a no gloves.
Now, theoretically, if runners were to make the appropriate changes, you could get a Game 3 if it were 6/6 fast Ganon that could have no glove.
Yes. If you knock the crystal requirements down to 6 and have fast Ganon, which as you said is possible in a Game 3 under these tournament rules, you could get that moonshot of a seed.
Just as I believe with 6/6 fast Ganon you could get a hammerless seed. Actually, even 6/6 defeat Ganon, if the big key is on the right side GT, you could get a hammerless seed.
Right, but the conditions for that are such a moonshot, and the chances that we actually see a 6/6 fast Ganon seed in this tournament, pretty low. Although you are right, 6/6 defeat Ganon is a fair bit more likely, as we've already seen a few of those this tournament.
It's still a moonshot at having exactly the 6 right crystal dungeons for doing hammerless. And for hammer being in a place where the runners just happen not to pick it up the whole time.
Right. It's the same sort of moonshot as the Moon Pearl being on the Master Sword pedestal is theoretically possible, but requires so much that you basically don't ever consider it.
Right, it would, first off the bat, require vanilla or French vanilla pendants.
Well, Hayfield's just about to enter his Helmasaur King fight here. Got a tempered sword, so it should be pretty simple. And to clarify for chat, while Hayfield knocks off the Helmasaur King's mask, we use French vanilla in the randomizer sense to refer to something that is close to but not exactly vanilla. So like in the vanilla game, all 3 of the Light World dungeons give you pendants when you clear them. They give green at Eastern and then red and blue at Desert and Hera. French vanilla would just be shuffling the order of those pendants. So like green would be in Desert and red and blue would be Eastern and Hera, as an example.
And we also use it, for example, if you find an item in the dungeon where it is in the vanilla game, but not in the same chest.
Yes, that's also accurate. In the vanilla game, pretty much all of the progression items are in big chests, with a few exceptions like the flute and the ice rod. So French vanilla would be finding those items in small chests instead of the dungeon's big chest. And then we didn't see the Helmasaur King drop anything useful, just a piece of heart. We did see the Pyramid Fairy fill James' bottle up with a blue potion, which is pretty convenient, saves you 160 rupees. But, yep, we're seeing the swamp play coming from Hayfield here.
Wonder if he'll duck over and do Dig Spot first, just on the off chance that it lets him avoid swamp. Though at this point, like, boots are the only thing that he could really find in Dig Spot that would open up stuff.
Right. The only progression he could find are the boots, which would potentially open up 2 items in Desert Palace on the right side, or a glove, which would unlock exactly the Land Mola's boss fight and nothing else.
And it would be out of logic without boots.
Yes.
Oh, Bombos! I totally forgot about Bombos.
A bit of an obscure mirror spot, but always good to combo in with Swamp Palace due to proximity. It's trash, though. Looks like we're not seeing the dig spot check before Swamp, though. That's a bit far out of the way for Hayfield's taste, it looks like.
Yeah, especially, well, without the glove to just cut over. So, 6 chests in Swamp. We've certainly seen in this tournament already progression on Argus and Pendant Swamp.
We've seen progression on the left side more than once as well.
I think there was a race where Pendant Argus had bow.
I've also seen rods on Pendant Argus, so when you run as many races as we have in this tournament, you'll see pretty much everything at some point, except Moon Pearl on Ted.
Yeah, we're featuring well over 100 races a week at this stage in the tournament, and we've already had 2 ties and several very near ties.
Well, there's our first glove. Hayfield gonna continue, since we already discussed, gloves open up exactly 1 location for him at this point.
Though it does make it easier for him to get over to dig spot when he leaves Swamp.
Yes, that is definitely correct, and you don't have to muscle memory or fight your muscle memory about picking up rocks anymore. I guess the real question left is that second glove going to be here in Swamp and just be nice to him? Or is it gonna be in one of those 2 other checks we've got available to us at this point, the dig game and the land molas? Or not the dig game, excuse me, we already did that, just the single dig spot where the flute is in the vanilla game. That red rupee means that there's 4 more items to find here. And as a reminder, that second glove will be go mode for Hayfield, pending a Ganon's Tower big key lock. But we're only an hour and 12 minutes into this seed, which sort of shows that even though those gloves have been absolutely cruel to us, the rest of the seed hasn't been that bad, even with an Agahnim requirement.
Well, that rules out the shovel. Basically,
So
we either have to have mitts or boots back here.
Yep. And finding both would put us in an unconditional go mode. So let's just hope to see that instead of making these runners run around all the pendant dungeons that they don't want to do.
There's our second bottle.
I think that makes 4 items in Swamp total so far.
I think so, because we've seen 1 dungeon item. On the one hand, we're going to be last locationing left side Swamp. On the other hand, there's so many locations that are still unavailable to us, it's really not as horrible as it sounds.
Yep. And really, it's not even last location. Hayfield could theoretically go say no and kill Land Molas first if he wanted.
It's
think that would...
logical last location.
Yes. And going out of your way for land molas only to come back to swamp would be an absolutely silly play, in my opinion. But you see crazy things sometimes. And with that big key find, we're still looking at 2 items across 3 locations between the big key chest, or the big chest, and the left side. And it looks like James is on his way to the swamp play as well. We'll see if he stops by at Bombo's tablet first.
Sure looks it.
Which, I mean, you sort of understand it, but at this point, when one glove opens up so little for him, would sort of actually rather see them just dive right into the dungeon, personally.
And, well, James is definitely not super far behind because of some of his routing and that unfortunate Wallmaster grab. He is decidedly behind.
Yeah, I think if not for the Skullwoods mishaps, they would be pretty close to dead even here. Maybe not exactly, but close enough that I'm comfortable calling it the what-if scenario.
And for other good music we don't hear often enough, we're going to be hearing some nice pendant dungeon music on James' side shortly.
Yep. Only get that for 3 dungeons out of the 10 in the game. Unless you play Key Sanity, then you can get it more. And on Hayfield's side, we finally reach the left side. Chests will follow shortly, and we know that there are going to be 2 items in the 2 chests up here.
And just to
and
put
logically...
Oh, so go ahead.
I was going to say, logically, one of them at least has to be progression. That ain't it, Chief.
So, wait a minute. I must be Oh, Catfish is... Oh, and... That was progression. I was going to say, wait a minute, Catfish is now in logic, but yes, okay, so we are in de facto go mode now. Unless Big Key is on Torch.
And that was 1 hour, 17 minutes, and 5 seconds for Hayfield to get into 90-something% certain go mode. And you can see he is taking those mids straight to Ice Palace, which will be his 6th crystal. Now, on James' side here, he already picked up the first glove. He can make up some time by doing the left side instead of going straight to the back for Argus, because he'll be able to just leave the dungeon afterwards. Now let's see if Hayfield checks any chests here in search of, say, the boots or the silver arrows. Looks like he's getting this one. And just junk.
But hey, one of the 3 items in ice. I don't think he's gonna go searching ice. That is, he's not gonna do out-of-the-way checks, but...
Right. I would expect to see a check of the Freezor room chest as he drops down towards Cold Stare, but not the right side, not the iced tea room, not the big chest unless he finds the big key. And on James' side, we do see him checking the left side of Swamp before going to the back. So that will save him a fair bit of time. He won't have to do an Argus fight. He won't have to come back into the dungeon. Although that does assume that he leaves this swamp after finding those mitts instead of pressing on in hopes of finding boots in here as well, just to be safe.
I think Hayfield was a little bit too high for that bomb jump.
Yeah, he's got it there, though. First try every time, right?
Yes, it was the first try of his second attempt.
Exactly.
And James is about to get his mitts.
Gotta get that ordinary bee in a bottle first, and Hayfield is not go-moding Ice Palace here. He's not going straight to the freeze-ore room. He's gonna check the right side. He is concerned about those boots, it looks like.
Huh. Does he have moral opposition to doing Desert Palace out of logic, or is he afraid of the 1 in 22 chance of Big Key on Torch?
I've got to think it's the 1 in 22, because if you can sequence break a go mode item and know that you're not going to need it because of the break, you will do that pretty much every time it makes sense to do so. And this is definitely a case where I think it makes sense.
Meanwhile, James is just going straight for land mows. Well, there's our second item in ice, and it's also junk.
He did get the big key, which will let him drop down to that chest from the freeze-ore room if he still needs it when he gets that far.
We could find our third item right here. But we don't.
To answer chat, the boots in this case are a sequence break for Desert Palace because there is a small key on the torch that you normally have to charge into with the boots to free the key. And the randomizer logic basically assumes that you will use your keys in the worst way possible, which means it assumes that you will take this pot key that James got at the start of this Back of Desert segment and take it back to the two items on the left-hand side, which would mean that you need the boots to get that other small key to reach the Land Molas fight he's in now. And unfortunately, slightly mistimed sword spin there means James is going to need to take another cycle, which knocks down the land mode.
And there's one of our two items in Desert, and for all that, it's just a big 20.
It's a big 20, but it's also his 5th crystal. Do have to note, he has not gone back and killed the Helmasaur King yet, which he does need to, as Hayfield gets an absolutely beautiful corner capture on those cold stairs and knocks him down for an Ether Medallion, and his 6th crystal.
So that's all the items in ice. I would hope that he's not gonna start checking everything and anything just to see if he can find the boots.
The good news for him is that if he goes to Ganon's tower and he sees that key on the torch, Desert tells him that he can leave Ganon's tower immediately. The bad news is that the torch, or the boots, excuse me, can be pretty much anywhere else at this point that we haven't already checked.
Just to address chat, the fact that the keys for the dungeon are the same is exactly why it's part of the same logic.
Now, we are getting a mire shed check from Hayfield here, which is a fairly in-the-way location when you're mirroring into the Back of Desert. We did not see what the medallion was. Honestly, we don't really care what the medallion was, because Hayfield has two, and he knows that the Quake medallion is on the floating island on Death Mountain. So he's got access to that dungeon if he wants it, which he really doesn't, I don't think. And then as these guys make their way through their dungeons to their respective bosses, Chad is mentioning the King's Tomb in the graveyard as a potential location. However, we know we won't be seeing that location today because you cannot enter it without the use of the boots. And the boots are the only item that we could really be frustrated by at this point.
And yes, Trinex could have the boots. But we'd have to see the ice rod first.
Yeah, I'm not even going to think about that one until I see a key in Ganon's tower. And that short hop land mola denies Hayfield the one cycle with his fire rod, but he knocks it down real quick on the second one, nice and easy.
Oh, and I just remembered, with the glove, there was one check that got unlocked. That is with the power glove before we got the mitts. We were saying that it didn't add anything. It added Spike Cave.
Ah, yes, it did add Spike Cave as well as the catfish that you had already previously mentioned. Also, for chat, boots cannot be locked in Desert Palace because of the small key placement. The way the randomizer is set up is you will be able to get every single inventory item. The only things that you can possibly miss out on are a couple of small keys, like the Tower of Hera small key can be in the basement, which renders it inaccessible, or a Thieves Town small key can be in the big chest, which can render it inaccessible depending on how you use keys. However, anything other than keys will not fall under that. You will be able to get every single item.
There is a different mode called Beatable where you could have items that aren't necessary to beating the game locked behind themselves, but that will not be featured in this tournament.
Correct. But the tournament is also not using that.
But on the casual daily races, we've done some beatable races, and there was one where Ice Rod was on pedestal and Turtle Rock was a pendant.
Anyways, with 7 crystals, we are seeing Hayfield into Ganon's tower shortly now. Chat is guessing where the big key is with the numbers that everybody watching on Twitch sees in the chat. But the first thing we've got to confirm is that the big key is even reachable, which we've got a 21 in 22 chance that it is.
19 is a remarkably popular guess today. I'm going to do my usual 10 since no one's taken it. What are you thinking?
10's my lucky number, so that's usually what I go with as well.
And he is making the torch's first check just so he can get the peace of mind. It is 50 rupees. We are in go mode.
Yep, 100%, all good. Do not need the boots. Do not need any more items to clear this seed.
And maybe if we're lucky, we'll find some silver arrows while we're looking for the big key.
Well, that's a lot of small keys in locations 2, 3, 4, and 5, and Hayfield is opting to take them to the right side of the tower. Six and 7 are both junk, and with neither of those junk items being small keys, it means that if you wanted to go to the right side, then going to that Sophos room on the left first was the play.
Oh, and he's doing tile room now.
This is a genuine gamble that you hardly ever see any runners do, just because of how long this room takes. You almost always see it put off to last. But if it pays off, it could be the dagger in this race. James is on his way to Helmasaur King for his 7th crystal, which means he has to finish that and climb the mountain to enter the tower to catch up here, but let's see.
Yeah, I wonder if Hayfield feels behind.
If he didn't before making that play, he might after seeing it not pay off, because that was a good 40-ish seconds sunk for no real gain. Of course, the flip side to that is that it could be he just felt ahead enough that he thought he could get away with it, but I'm not going to speculate.
We'll ask him after the race.
Unfortunately, he gets himself a bit blocked in there, not able to get past the Gibdo. And JamesFnX is now on 7 crystals as well. All we've got to do is see him climb the mountain, and he'll be joining Hayfield in Ganon's tower. And I believe that was chests 9 through 12, factoring in the tile room for Hayfield.
So I guess it wasn't 10. It also means that if the chest is left side, James could pretty well catch up. I don't think he'll totally catch up, but he'd be close enough that it would come down to execution after that.
Right. With Hayfield Drought specifically, there's the Randomizer room with 4 chests, the Fire Snake room, and the Fire Bar room where it could be.
Oh my!
And any of those locations. Sorry.
Oh, I just had a momentary lapse, and I was like, why isn't Hayfield just bonking to that island? And then I realized.
Bonks are developer-intended mechanics, but no boots equals no bonk.
Yeah. Oh, and he also realizes he can't bonk there and has to set up a bomb jump. Nicely executed.
Yep, that's not a bomb jump you have to do very often. It's slightly slower than just bonking because you have to wait for the bomb to explode, but it's still good. And that was... Sorry.
Go ahead.
That was just junk in chest number 13, the so-called Bob's chest.
And I was going to say we also, completely irrelevantly, have now discovered that Turtle Rock was in fact Quake. So there would have been a visit through Hookshot Cave necessary.
Yeah, that's just a key under the doormat scenario, really. Not even under it, it's plainly visible.
Okay, and there was our big key in 15. So no matter what James does, it's going to take him a while to get to the back, so Hayfield still has a few minutes lead. And congratulations to Aerodynam Mac, and Keskin Mena. Keskin Mena, you can't win 2 things in one game, I'm sorry.
Was he the one that properly guessed the number of blue balls from Aga 1 as well?
Yep.
Well, shout-outs to him being able to read the random logic of this seed. And there's Hayfield falling down to 2 arrows on the second Mimic room, but grabbing the 5 under the pot there to stock him back up a little bit. Without silvers, the only place he really needs arrows for remaining is the gauntlet rooms, which arrows are more of a recommendation than anything there.
And James is going full left, which will save him a bit of time at least versus going back and going full right like Hayfield did. It's just At this point, probably too late unless Hayfield takes like some Moldorm falls or a Ganon fall.
Yep. He is saving 40 some odd seconds by not doing the tile room as well. But Hayfield already having the key, already being in the gauntlet, it's going to take a little more than good execution for James to catch up.
Yeah, as we said, if the key had been left side, it would be a very tight race right now. Just to address chat, tile chest was 8, the compass room chests were 9 through 12, Bob's chest was 13, and we found the big key in the second of the 3 chests behind Armos Knight, so that would be 15.
The primary thing about going full left versus full right and left saving time for Hayfield here is that he's already halfway, well, not quite halfway down the left, but he had already made progress down that way. And resetting that progress to go to the right would slow him down a bit at that point. Meanwhile, on Hayfield's side, he made it through the gauntlet, through Lane Molas 2, and through the Wizrobe room, so all he's got to do is light some torches and he will be well on his way to the Moldorm rematch.
Unfortunately, James did not quite get the bomb jump there.
No, that beetle charged right at him, and he had to choose between letting the beetle hit him or hitting the beetle. And then he, unfortunately, didn't get it set up properly the second time either. And with Hayfield holding 4 keys, we're not going to see him check anything or kill anything in these last few rooms. Those mini Helmosaurs do have a key if you need it, but we don't. Okay, we are seeing that chest check then for 20 rupees and him getting stuck on the peg.
Well, it saves about 50 seconds if you find the silvers, and it obviously takes a lot less than 50 seconds to check those chests.
Yeah.
But he's not taking Moldorm's last possession, so Ganon will tell us where these silvers were.
And we know pretty confidently they were in a mid-slot location at this point.
And we saw every chest in GT basement, so they weren't in the basement, so...
Well, we didn't see the big chest.
Oh, that's true. That would be kind of funny because that is almost never checked.
Yeah, you just get those really weird edge cases and cases where something other than GT is your final dungeon, like an Ancient Shuffle or an Overworld Glitches type of run.
Yeah, and weird edge cases would be things like, you know, you're still on Fighter Sword.
Or you're still without a bow because both Eastern and Pod were pendants. Anyways, that is Agahnim 2 down for Hayfield. All he's got left at this point is the Ganon fight, as James runs out of arrows in the Mimic Room but has the pot to bail him out. Hayfield using the Cane of Burna here, lagging the game significantly, but ensuring that he will be able to knock Ganon's Phase 2 out in one cycle.
Though at least with red mail, those bats are only 2 hearts apiece.
Yep. Low enough that you can tank a couple, but still harmful enough that you don't want to take more than you have to. Now we just need Ganon to quit warping for 1 hit, and... Did you find the arrows in the Dark World? That would be Catfish. Because where
Or
else
Smith's
didn't you
Chain.
check? Oh yes, Smith's is... does the purple chest count as a Dark World location, or is that just hammer pegs?
I think Purple Chest counts as Dark World because you obtain it in the Dark World.
I know that Smith's counts as Light World because that's where you turn it in. I just couldn't remember the logic for the chest, and somebody in chat saying that it's a Light World location.
Oh, is it? Huh.
Even so, that's still Catfish or hammer pegs.
I can check the code afterwards.
Regardless, with mitts being go mode and the first glove being in the same location as the mitts, those were never locations we were checking today.
Right. And down goes Ganon, so get your GGs in chat. As HayfieldBay has, assuming he crosses this bridge, advanced to week 3 of groups.
Yep, and that is HayfieldBay finishing the race in first place with a time of 1 hour, 40 minutes, and 46 seconds. Also, chat mentioning Spike Cave as a location, but Death Mountain is separate from the Dark World in the as far as Ganon's hints go, I believe.
Actually, I think Dark Death Mountain is still considered Dark World, so Spike Cave or Hookshot Cave could have.
Super Bunny Cave as well. We didn't actually see the checks there, right? But yeah,
I guess he only
Dark
came
Death
up
Mountain
through
counts
it.
as Dark World, then yeah, then that's a fair few more checks as well. Yeah, seeds where you don't get gloves before like an hour 15 or so. Weird. That's all I'm gonna say. James is now... Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say the same thing, taking down Moldorm too. Oh, and it was just a big 20 in that chest.
Vanilla. So here's an Aga 2 fight, then it will just be a Ganon fight for James.
Good return for sale. It still wasn't a great return for sale. You're out 200 rupees.
Negative 40% ROI. I think that would get a lot of people sued.
And as James takes down Aga, we have HayfieldBay in here with us. GG.
GG.
So how about them gloves?
That was really something.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that before. Have you ever found both gloves in swamp and pendant swamp at that?
I'm hearing loud sound here.
Because we noticed both of you at different points were, you know, trying to lift rocks and realizing that you still couldn't.
Muscle memory is a fun thing to try to fight.
Now I had to turn on my Netflix here. Okay. Yeah, I want to see it. I'm so confused for the most of the game. I thought I had forgotten an item somewhere, because when I went to Aga, I had no items leading to Dark World access. I did not have the Moon Pearl, Gloves, or Hammer. And that was something, yeah.
Oh, and James takes a Ganon fall, or Ganon death.
Just a quick announcement on this. After taking that Ganon death, James did opt to forfeit the race, so that will be the end of the race. Might see if we can get him in here too as well.
And unfortunately, that is also the end of James's time in this tournament. So please give him a good GG for, playing through this and trying his best.
And we are joined by JamesFnX as well. GG. So, I think, unfortunately for both of you, we've already discussed it very briefly with Hayfield, but that seed was quite a bit silly. We had what I thought was an ideal pendant layout with both Mire and Turtle Rock, the slow dungeons being pendants, and Swamp on top of that, but couldn't escape the Swamp Palace tip.
Are you guys still with us? I see you there, but if either of you are talking, we're not hearing.
Oh, I put your talk on, that's why.
There we go.
I'm just as skilled of an interviewee as I am a runner, so...
I mean, this seed was definitely...
Seed was fine. Seed was fine. There was nothing really trolly about it.
It was just a lot of really long walks because of those glove placements.
Yeah, and I spent several minutes in Skull Woods playing badly and bailed on Pod, forgetting I didn't have a glove and couldn't just get over to the Light World, or get over to the Western Dark World, and wasted a bunch of time there, and combined that with a Ganon death, and I was doomed.
Well, believe it or not, it was at the point where, just because of the order that Hayfield did his checks, if the big key had been on left side GT, like post Stalfos room, because he did Dark Magician all the way around to the right, you guys would have basically been tied at that point.
Yeah, once it was behind Iasarmos, I expected Hayfield to have been done like 5 or 6 minutes before he was. When he hadn't done yet, I figured that Big Key was on Torch.
Well, he also practically full cleared ice. And I meant to ask him what he was looking for there, but he seems to have disappeared on us.
Yeah, I can't imagine what he was looking for in ice, because that was a go dungeon for sure.
Problem with his audio mic.
At that point, it would have just been the boots, which HayfieldBay is in chat for us. If he can answer questions or take chat's questions. And yes, he is confirming that it was definitely the boots he was looking for. I guess concerns about that 1 in 22 are fairly warranted with the way the seed had gone and knowing that Desert itself was also boots locked.
Right. I felt I was so far behind at that point, I would just have to hope that Key was on Torch and I could guess better than him. I don't know. I played both games of the seed. The first one was a restream, but I played both games of the seed pretty poorly. I don't know.
It was only like a 3-minute difference between you and the last one.
It was, and if I played the best I could have played, I would have won that game. I'm pretty sure.
Sorry, you cut out for a moment there.
Like I said, if I played to the best of my abilities in that game, I would have won. I I played pretty sloppy in that game and pretty sloppy in this one. There's only one of the 4 games I got to play where I felt good, and I got beat by Pika Pals in that one. And the other 3, I feel like I didn't play the level of the other players in this tournament.
Well, you still made it here. I mean, you got a good 4 games in.
I can at least fairly confidently say that if I had played the qualifiers, I would not have been top 128. So you've got that going for you for sure. And sometimes things just break the way they do.
Yeah, I don't know. I wish I could play more consistently, and that's a big leak in my game. And it's frustrating for me to play something competitively and be mediocre at it. So,
I mean, I would say that the fact that you made it through quals puts you better than mediocre. Because there are a lot of, perfectly good players.
And I will say the level of the community as a whole has risen dramatically over the past couple years in an effort to catch up to the people who speedrun vanilla and MG. And you've definitely been right there part of that, improving alongside it. So if nothing else, I'll be looking forward to seeing what you have to show in the next tournament as well, if you're interested in participating in that whenever it rolls around.
thanks.
But yeah, I think that's going to do it for us today, at least for this race. We have a ton more races today. Let's pull up the schedule. Yes, so there are races going on SG2 and SG3 right now. Walter the Fourth versus Frostbite 3030 has just gotten underway on SG3, and Asder versus Ravis is a little under an hour in on SG2. Coming up on this channel at 4 o'clock, we have Christos Owen versus Jay Coper. And then we have a few more races this evening, both here on the main Speed Gaming channel and 4. And of course, many, many more races all week.
Right. People are going to start dropping out of the tournament as they take 2 losses in the losers bracket at this point, as unfortunately happened to James today. But we've still got a huge number of races to get through. You said earlier we're looking at over 100 a week, and that is continuing through this week.
Yeah, so. And this week is where things start to get exciting, because you were saying people are going to start dropping out by the end of eliminated. 32 people will have already clinched a spot in brackets, and the remaining 64 will have to duke it out with each other next week for which half of them get eliminated and which half of them go on to brackets. And HayfieldBay is in that 64 now, in fact. So he will be playing next week to see if he makes it to brackets.
Yep. He will be playing against the loser of the Pika Pals versus Sir Linkalot 777 matchup, which his first round matchup was against Sir Linkalot, and he did unfortunately drop that 1-2, but may be able to turn it around in the rematch if that comes to be.
And I think we'll be seeing a lot of rematches, because the way this is structured with how the runners were picked from different quartiles, assuming there are no upsets, then the second and third seeds that faced each other in week 1, I think in a lot of groups will be rematching against each other in week 3. But yeah, that's all we got for you. Please do give the Speed Gaming family of channels a follow. We have this one, and we have Speed Gaming 2 through 6. Of course, please give our runners a follow. The fact that they both made it to this tournament is really a good testament because the qualifiers were super competitive, and I'm sure they'll both be playing plenty. And thank you to my co-com, Reg or Regaro, depending whether you're looking at chat or on the screen. And thanks to OSS Geek again for tracking and keeping on top of everything there.
And in addition to the speed gaming channels and the runners, we do have ALTTP Randomizer and ALTTP Randomizer 2 through 5, which you will see matches throughout the week showing up on occasionally. Make sure to give those a follow as well. And I believe that about covers it. So I've been Reg, my partner today has been Drossi, and see you guys over some other match.
And have a good afternoon.